If you watch the top European clubs play, you'll notice that it seems like they always have the ball and they're constantly attacking, getting the ball back, attacking again, getting the ball back, attacking again. We're talking about Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Bayern Munich. Now, these teams all drop a lot of players in the build-up phase to maintain possession, yet at the same time, they're able to attack with a tremendous amount of numbers as well. So how do they do both? That's what I want to get into today. I was listening to an interview from Guardiola after a Champions League match, and he said the opponent changed their shape at halftime from a back four to a back five. And he said, that made us change everything about how we were attacking. That's pretty drastic. To me, this implies that the way they attack is very organized and systematic, with a lot of patterns built into it. Now, obviously, there's going to be freedom from players, for players to make decisions and the ability to be creative and improvise. But I imagine it's a very structured, organized thing. And so today, I want to get into what are the rules for this organization and how can we explain it in kind of a level one simplified way. So we want to talk about why have build-up play and the positional play models that the pro teams use. How should players position themselves in terms of where on the field during the build-up phase? And how do they know how aggressively they should move forward to attack? So here are my priority list in positional play. Number one thing, do not lose the ball. Do not give a counterattack opportunity. You can move all your players aggressively towards the opponent's goal during an attack. But if you lose the ball, their counterattack will be a better opportunity for them than the opportunity you would have had while attacking their goal. You can string together 20 passes, be extra fancy. Their counterattack will still be better. They'll still have more space and more time than you will, because even if you string together 20 passes, typically the other team's defense is shifting, recomposing, going back, restricting your space and your time. But in counterattacks, you have tons of space to play into. Thus, you can't lose the ball. So that's the number one priority. Now, once that's achieved and maybe you found a spare player in the build-up phase, what are you trying to do? Break the lines, play through around them, and get the ball up to the top players. Now, I could make an entire video for how they do this and how they make diamonds, triangles, and rotate, go back, switch the play. But we're not as focused on that now as the result of that and in terms of what happens when you get the ball to their back line. And the goal is to overwhelm them numerically. Give the defenders an impossible choice, trying to defend two guys at once, which is just impossible. And so, what is one way this can be achieved? So here's a simplified plan that's kind of like the base template that I see the top teams use. All right, here we see an opponent team in the black. They're like in a 4-3-3. The side of the field with the ball, I'm calling the strong side, and the side without the ball, the top of the screen, I'm calling the weak side. Typically, the top teams use their attacking players to stay high as possible and pin the backline players in during the buildup, creating as much space below them for other players to have time to pass through. Now, you might say, wait a minute, I see wingers and strikers constantly dropping to get on the ball. This happens, but I think this is not what they would prefer to do. They only do this when they have to in the build-up phase. They prefer to stay high where they can attack the back line sooner. You look at an attacking player that's good at picking the ball up, like a Jack Grealish that can go and basically act like a midfielder, dropping deeper. When he does this, you'll maintain possession, but he's not going to be able to turn and attack with any sort of advantage because carrying the ball and dribbling is just too slow. On the flip side of this, you have some players that they're never going to attack the back line and make runs or things like that. These are the center backs, a CDM, and obviously the goalkeeper. Some players constantly have to offer support, or else you'll get countered. And if you get countered, some players have to be there to manage counterattack. So not everyone can go up. Now this leaves 4 other players, something like 2 midfielders, 2 wide players, 2 fullbacks, depending on your system. And of these 4 players in red here, 2 of them will have to join the yellow attacking players so we can create a 5v4 on the back line. So one backline defender has to deal with a 2v1. So the question is, how do they make this choice? How do they know which of them will go up and which of them will stay lower to help the buildup? Here is one possibility. On the weak side of the play, there are 2 players. One of them needs to prioritize support, staying behind the line of the ball. In case the play goes back and switches, there will be a guy there, and you can go around the other side and attempt to attack again. This player can get forward, but it has to do so cautiously. The other guy, he's completely free. He can find whatever space he needs and basically can become a spare attacking player. And he can start as high as he needs to if the space is there. You could have either player do this. At teams like City, they have the fullback support when it's Kyle Walker, and he comes inside and moves up slowly, where their weak side midfielder, like De Bruyne or Silva, they have complete freedom to go find the space and basically become a spare attacker. Now, on the strong side, the side with the ball, things have to be more planned out. Typically, the fullback will either be on the line of his mark or below it. And I think it's ideal to be on the line. So in a transition moment, when we can break the line with a pass, you can get a step on the mark. If they're this low, they still offer a pass to the center back if one is needed, but there's a lot of space in front of them that they can run into and maybe join the attack. The midfielder has to be much more cautious, starting high, creating a lot of space, and then working towards the ball, offering the safest possible pass, someone checking vertically towards the ball. Now, if they do this, they're not going to be able just to stop and sprint back the other way and beat their mark and contribute to the attack. So after the lines are broken with a pass, typically this player will move forward in a supporting role and let the other guys attack. Let's see an example of this happening live. Okay, I have a pattern here, a sequence. Let's take a look. So we're playing out from the back. Their striker chooses to block the switch of play. We move forward here. We already see our fullback staying on line with the mark, and our midfielder, he's staying high to create space. He's going to then use that space, checking towards it. In this sequence, I have him pull the mark and let us pass straight to the top. Notice our fullback has already jumped forward, attempting to 2v1. We try the 2v1, but they shift over. It's a 2v2. So we switch play and achieve a 3v2 in the middle of the field where we find a spare player and get the ball behind their back line as we enter into the box. Okay, let's watch it again because it happens fast for sure. Okay, they chose to not press and did not let us switch play. And in this situation, we go all the way up. I'm pausing. Notice on the left side, the fullback has already come in to support. He's not moving aggressively up the line. As soon as this pass is hit, watch number 2, trying to get a jump on number 7, the mark. We tried a 2v1, but the defense shifts over, making it a 2v2. Normally this will happen. The side you play through originally, it's hard to get a numeric advantage because the defense will just shift over. But if you shift them over, it opens up opportunities on the weak side. Executing the switch can be difficult, but very rewarding. Here I have the opposing fullback man marking, which is just absolutely incorrect. But you see it more on the grassroots level. But if they do, it opens up the middle, inside out through ball, free player on the back post. So once we're successful transitioning to the attack, what is the process? Here's one pattern of options, starting with that strong side 2v1 versus their widest defender like the fullback. If that's not there, trying to switch the play as high as possible to either a weak side 2v1 versus the other fullback, or maybe a central 3v2 if the defense is not compact enough. If that is too slow, if someone takes a bad touch or the defense is able to shift all the way over, which maybe they're just sprinting all the way left to right because the game has just started and they have a lot of energy to burn, that's when the weak side support player can arrive and try to outnumber there, creating a 3v2, offering a through ball or making the run themselves. Let's take a look at a pattern where that happens. Okay, this one will start the same. So we're bringing it up. We're not getting much pressure, and we break the line. Here's that strong side 2v1 that we attempt, and we make them shift. So it's 2v2. This time, I'll pause it. Their fullback correctly comes inside and plays more central. And thus our winger has a lot of space. This is the most common pattern on the pro level, and often they make these switches in the air and drop it right on the guy's foot. Here we'll try to 2v1 this other fullback, but maybe a bad touch slows us down. Now the weak side fullback will arrive for us, and we're in a 3v2. And maybe this player can find a spare third man run and create a good crossing situation close to the near post. Okay, we'll watch it one more time. Speed it up. We break the line. Now let's slow it down. While we have this advantage, attempting the 2v1, but notice their center back shift over, it's not there. We are able, look how many players we have below the play to support. We have the strong side midfielder, we have the CDM, and we have the weak side fullback. All of these are options to receive and switch the play. On the ground is ideal, but in the air is okay if we're accurate. We switch, and we already have a built-in 2v1 we try. If it slows down, now is the time for this fullback to come forward and get aggressive himself, offering something like a one-touch through ball or rotating in. Here he traded places with the midfielder, and he makes the inside-out run himself, getting in the back line, and we score on a pullback opportunity. If we can't outnumber, if there is no 2v1, but we've moved the ball close enough to the goal, sometimes we can just hit it in there, a direct opportunity. If we have enough numbers in the box, it's basically a set piece within live play where you might have a numeric advantage, a 3v2 as guys are running in which case, even if the ball doesn't go directly to them, they're very likely to win the second ball. And if you shoot the ball into the box like this, it's very difficult for the team to counter the full field. If the keeper catches it and falls on the ground or the ball goes out of bounds, you have time to recover and set up your defense, and thus you're not getting countered. So this was just one possibility of how the fullbacks and midfielders can know their roles as you go from the build-up phase to the attack. You give people jobs and still a little bit of freedom in how they execute these 2v1s or 3v2s, then you can be aggressive and safe at the same time. Now, this is difficult to do. The pro defenses are very good, and they do not open up very often. Usually, if they create a 2v1, it occurs less than a second. And if you don't execute, it will close up. That's why teams are always going back, switching, going back, switching, going back, switching. If the defensive shape changes, if they run a back five, it's tough to outnumber them on the back line. And you have to change the style of your attack. And I might make a video on that in the future. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed this. See you guys.